Great morning, great morning, great morning, and welcome to our annual convocation for Lynchburg City Schools. Great morning, great morning, great morning, and welcome to our annual convocation for Lynchburg City Schools. I am Ethel Reeves, Director of Equity and Community Relations, and I'm happy to be a part of the amazing LCS family. We know that some of you are joining us from classrooms or individual offices. Some are in groups, but wherever you are, I have a question for you. Are you excited to kick off the 2022-23 school year? I sure hope so, because we are ready to open our doors to meet our students and our families. We're excited to welcome every employee to what we know will be our best year ever. I have been saying we. Joining me this morning are a few special guests. We will hear from our Honorable Vice Mayor Bo Wright, followed by our esteemed School Board Chair, Dr. James Coleman. After Dr. James Coleman's welcome, Mr. Carl Luce from the Lynchburg Education Association will share words of welcome. Vice Mayor Bo Wright, are you ready?
I am. Can you hear me okay, Ethel?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, well, good morning, everybody. And thank you so much for having me. As Ethel shared, I'm Bo Wright. I'm the Vice Mayor here in Lynchburg, and it's my great privilege to offer on behalf of Mayor Dolan, Lynchburg City Council, and of course our broader community, congratulations on a new year. It's also a privilege and really a special honor for me to be here speaking with you this morning because of how much I owe personally to you, to many of you, and to LCS generally, including Carl Luce, I should add, who is my 7th grade teacher, because I'm a product of Lynchburg City Schools, from kindergarten at Lincoln Elementary to 12th grade at EC Glass. And the education that I received was outstanding, but I also know that it was no accident. It was the hard work and dedication and skill of LCS staff that made my education possible. Hundreds of people. From the moment I got on the bus at the start of the day to when I finished my homework at night, every school day for 13 years. And LCS does that every year for over 7,000 children that at one point included me. So what you do, the lives you affect, the community you build and nurture, that's an incredible legacy that belongs to each of you. And I just want to say, as a fellow community member here in Lynchburg, how grateful I am and thankful that you have chosen LCS. Our community is really lucky to have you. So that's it. That's all I wanted to say. Congratulations on a new school year, and I'll turn it back, I guess, to you, Ethel.
Awesome. Thank you, Vice Mayor Wright. We appreciate so much your support. Dr. Coleman,
Thank you.
are.
Thank you, Ethel. Thank you, Vice Chair. Vice Mayor, we're so thankful for your remarks. Good morning, LCS family. On behalf of your amazing, hardworking 9-member school board comprised of Dr. Bob Brennan, Vice Chair, Dr. Sharon Carter, former Vice Chair, Dr. Atul Gupta, Dr. Martin Day, Mr. Anthony Andrews, Mrs. Gloria Preston, Attorney Randall Trost, and Dr. Kim Sinha, as we embrace our 2022-23 school year with a reset and refresh emphasis, let me be the next voice to say to you unequivocally, without reservation, you matter. Whether you're in administration, a teacher, a literacy coach, in behavioral support, speech pathologist, a librarian, instructional and personal care assistant, bus driver, NIT, a secretary, media center, online learning, athletic director, athletic coach, attendance coordinator, bookkeeping, in counseling, a nurse, SRO, in the cafeteria, career tech, cultural arts, a custodian, day treatment, educational interpreter, you absolutely matter. Yes, it is time to reset and refresh. Can I tell you that as incredible as you already are at doing what you do, there is another you inside of you that you have not met yet. The reset, refresh you that is absolutely ready to handle every situation you will face this year with great energy and ultimate success. So a reset is about embracing a positive attitude towards change and finding opportunities for personal growth in the hardest of times. It allows us to have the opportunity to improve as we do what we do for kids at all levels. And an opportunity to refresh gives us new strength to reinvigorate and repair, to have the chance to update and fully load with the latest version of information and fix some site errors. So I begin to close. COVID has certainly exposed many site errors in our schools and communities. It has exacerbated so many disparities, resulting in clear challenges for us in education. But y'all, we got this. For unlike many school divisions where the teachers are scared of the principals and the principals are scared of the superintendents and the superintendents are scared of the school boards and the school boards are scared of FOIA government and parents are scared of their own children and the children aren't scared of anybody. But not in LCS. In reset and refresh mode, we will operate not with fear, but faith in our abilities, trust in each other, and love for kids. Yes, LCS, from the school board to our awesome superintendent, to each of you, we got this. So as the board works hard this year for you in every way possible, we encourage you as we reset and refresh to get out there and do good works in and outside of the classroom. Surround yourself with people whose eyes light up when they see you coming. And remember, as we tackle the achievement gap and academic performance for all students, the top of one mountain is the bottom of the next. So keep on climbing. And this will be the greatest year ever of growth for Lynchburg City Schools. Thank you. Let's have a great year.
Mr. Luz.
Hi, and hello to all of you, and welcome to another school year. I am Paul Lutz, president of Lynchburg Education Association, and I'll keep this brief because I know a lot of you have other things you'd rather be doing right now. And I'm glad Dr. Coleman talked about reset and refresh, because I'm going to focus on the refresh part of that, because we often hear so much about going back this time of year. Back to school, let's get back to the way things were before the pandemic. Let's get back to normal. But instead, what I want to challenge you all to do is to focus on moving forward. The world of education, as we know it, has fundamentally changed over these last 2 years. And while they are tried and true methods that we want to continue using moving forward, we also need to use this as an opportunity to do things better than they have ever been done before. Instead of lamenting the loss of the old path, let's forge a new path. And what does that look like? Well, it looks like veteran and new staff working together, discussing how tasks have always been done, and then finding better ways to do those tasks going forward. It's questioning why things are a certain way, and then being open to new ways of doing things. And it's also understanding what's been successful in the past, and instead of getting rid of what's been successful, building upon what's been successful. Let's put it all on the table too. Lesson plans, assignments, building usage, discipline, SPED opportunities, gifted opportunities, sports, clubs, all of it. Let's put it all on the table and find the best way forward for everything that we do. And when we find a better way, let's share it. Let's tell our leaders what we need to make these ideas come to fruition. Tell them what support we need to improve what we're trying to do. Let's lead from the ground up, not from the top down. Let's not sit back and wait. Let's forge ahead on a new path. Because if you're like me, last year was just too hard. I'm tired of making it work. I'm tired of scrambling to do the best we can. That's not what I signed on for, and I'm guessing that's not what you signed on for either. So instead, this year, let's move forward and let's do it together. Thanks, and welcome back to a new school year.
Thank you so much to all of our special guests. If you weren't excited, you should be now after hearing those words of welcome. It's now time to introduce our new administrators. Some are new this year, and others joined us in new positions during the middle of our last school year. Let's see some of the new faces who have joined the LCS team. Dr. Reed Wotica, Deputy Superintendent of Operations and Strategic Planning. Karen Capazzi, Chief Financial Officer. Barbara Reipkema, Assistant Director of Finance. Samuel Coleman, Chief Academic Officer. Dr. Derek Brown, Director of Student Services. Tracy Peachtrack, Supervisor of Student Services. Lazarus Hamlet, Supervisor of Student Services. Annie Terry, Supervisor of Student Services. We have Crystal Grant, Supervisor of Student Mentoring and Engagement. Michael O'Brien, Supervisor of Special Education. Kathy Nichols Koch, Instructional Supervisor. Catherine Phillips, Supervisor of Instructional Technology. Chuck Yarborough, Educational Data Analyst. Dana Cole, Coordinator of Assessment. Whitney Boyd, Coordinator of Family and Community Engagement. Tanisha Thomas, Division-Wide Health Testing Coordinator. Cecil Jackson, Safety Manager. Christy Compton, Supervisor of Grant Programs. New school leadership includes Dominique Foster, Principal of Perrymont Elementary School. Also, as the Assistant Principal at Perrymont is Jason Shelton. Dr. Anitra Lee, Principal, Sandusky Middle School. Catherine Bragg, Assistant Principal, Sandusky Middle School. Jessica Barger, Associate Principal, EC Glass High School. Kathleen Gentry, Assistant Principal, EC Glass High School. And Tiffany Bird, Assistant Principal at Heritage High School. Let's make sure that we welcome our new employees, our new administrators, as they join forces with Lynchburg City Schools. Well, in order to have the best year ever, we must have some direction. Here to give that direction and to cast the vision for the 22-23 school year are our leaders. First of all, we'll have Superintendent Dr. Crystal Edwards, joined by our Deputy Superintendents, Amy Pugh and Dr. Reed Wodeker. Dr. Edwards?
Good morning, good morning, good morning, and welcome back, everybody. And if you didn't leave, we're still glad that you're here with us. We're going to have an exciting year, as Dr. Coleman and Vice Mayor Wright and Carl Luce shared warm, welcoming moments with you this morning. It is time to reset and refresh. And we hear you, Mr. Luce, when you say we need collaboration, we need teamwork, and that is what this year is about. I'm going to share my screen just so I can share a few words of wisdom here. Give me a second. Okay. Again, just thanking everyone out there for joining us this morning. I also want to give a special thanks to our Equity and Community Relations Director, Ethel Reeves, and her amazing communication team, who seamlessly put these things together behind the scenes, things we don't even see, but they always come out great. So thank you, communication team, for everything that you do. We appreciate your work. And before I begin, just a brief public service announcement. COVID did not leave us. So we are still in the battle of a pandemic that is still rapidly spreading. Although the signs and symptoms are not as bad as they were at the beginning, we still need to be cautious. So I encourage everyone who can, if you can be vaccinated and boosted, please do so. And we are a mask encouraged division. So if you would like to wear a mask, especially when we're gathering in large crowds, you are welcome and encouraged to do so. And we will continue to participate in the VISTA program this year, which means that our students and our staff can sign up voluntarily to be tested for free every single week. Just one more thing to make sure that we keep our schools open and keep our schools COVID free. To the big stuff. I had the opportunity a couple of days ago to go to the new staff welcome. And I saw this poster that was done by our HR department. And it made me think of this quote by Beth Huff. We want to create a school where students, staff, and parents are beating the doors to get in, not out. And as I reflected on that quote, and I've heard it 6 years ago, and it was important then, and it's important now. It's what we need now. These are the schools that we want to create, except I'd add a little tweak to this quote. In addition to students, staff, parents, and guardians, we also want our community partners to join us. As Mr. Luce said, we can go back to doing things the way they were, but we need new voices. We need new direction. We need to look at what's going on now and move forward. And to do that, we need you, community partners, to help us. Reset and refresh. It's okay that we're in the middle of a pandemic. It's okay that we're struggling to find employees. It's okay that we're seeing differences in our students, in our families. And it's okay because they have you. And as Dr. Coleman said, you matter. And together we can work together to make sure that this year is a better year than last year, but that this year is the best year that we've had so far. So let's look at this theme of reset and refresh and make it our theme for the year. So, wisdom. Often I'm listening to Steve Harvey in the morning, and you just never know where these words of wisdom come from. And he gave me something that made me think about reset. He talks about gratitude, and that gratitude changes everything. So during a time when we are seeing significant shortages in qualified teachers, substitutes, instructional assistants, bus drivers, office staff, you name it, there's a shortage. And not just here in Lynchburg City Schools. We see it in our community. We see it in the restaurant industry. We see it in the health industry. It's everywhere. So what would make me feel grateful about that? Because at times when we are seeing a shortage, it just makes you appreciate the people who show up. And you all show up. You showed up last year. You show up every day. You show up when there is a staff shortage. You bring your A game every single day and give kids the best service possible. We need to stop and be grateful for the people who are in schools, grateful for the people who are driving the buses, grateful for the people who make sure that our children get fed and we have no child going hungry. Grateful for our custodial and our maintenance staff that keep our buildings clean, that keep them well maintained. Grateful for our coaches and all of the staff who give extra time after school, before school, to make sure our kids have a thriving arts, athletics, and extracurricular program. Grateful for the attendance clerks who work with our families to make sure that students' needs are met. Grateful to our bilingual employees, our ELL teachers, interpreters, and translators who ensure that families are not blocked from any service due to a language barrier. And just grateful for the over 1,500 employees who work in Lynchburg City Schools who put the needs of kids first. At a time when the education profession is taking a beating publicly, let us stop and be grateful for those who make a child smile every day, for those who leave a child inspired when they leave our buildings. That is all of you. So if we start our day with gratitude, we are starting our day off right. And gratitude, that helps change your attitude, according to Steve Harvey. And we know that attitude matters. Attitude will help us move away from a fixed mindset to that growth mindset, because that's where we need to be. We're going to have to do things differently. We're going to have to do things that we may not have done in the past. We need a growth mindset. Our attitude will help us nurture the potential in our kids instead of focusing on the deficits that they may have. When you adjust your attitude, you make room to be a youth mental health first aider for all children, regardless of your position in this division. Your positive attitude can serve as an infectious virus, a positive virus that spreads throughout the classroom, the lunchroom, the playground, the athletic fields, the office, the department, the school, and even the division. And we know when we change our attitude, we change our altitude. When we start with gratitude and have a positive attitude, this allows us to soar. And imagine if we inspire this in our children this year. Let's all begin with gratitude, change our attitude, and soar to these altitudes that we have never been before. All you have to do is take a moment to look at our school models, and you'll see where our schools are already setting children up to reach these high altitudes. Let's start with Dunbar. Raise the bar, no excuses. Sandusky, we do it better when we do it together. R.S. Payne, dream, believe, achieve. Bedford Hills, it's the Husky way every day. That's how we're going to reach these altitudes. T.C. Miller soars. Our kids are soaring. And one more from E.C. Glass. Together, we keep climbing. And that's what we need as we reset our focus on gratitude. Reset, have that positive attitude, and reset to reach those altitudes. Let's talk about refresh now. Our mission statement, every child by name and by need to graduation and beyond. That mission statement looks very different in 2022 than it did in 2018. Our kids are different. Education is different. The tools we need to reach and inspire are different. We need to work together if we're going to achieve this mission statement. And we have to take a refresh look at ourselves, at our practices. The reason we have to is because kids deserve it. I love this book by Welcome and Neslony. It talks about pushing the boundaries and challenging conventional thinking. That's what we need today. We're going to have to push the boundaries and challenge our conventional thinking of how we do school. We need a refresh. And as Mr. Liu said, we need to bring all those practices and strategies that work with us as we combine them with a new look. What are we looking at? Academic performance, our instructional practice. We know to be engaging. We need some and beyond support, and is what happens after graduation. This cannot happen if we don't stop and take a focus on self-care. And that's for the students, their families, and the staff. If we're gonna do great things in Lynchburg City Schools, it starts with taking care of yourself first. Looking at youth mental health, we can't close our eyes to what our children have experienced because they bring it to school with them. but we need to help the staff. We need to help our schools. We need to help our children and families make it through some of these tough times. And that goes along with really paying attention to youth mental health while also providing the much needed behavioral supports in schools. And we can do that while we focus on school safety, bring in the community to help engage, and taking a look at our facilities. So as this pandemic has shown us, we need to think differently about what we do. We need to reset and refresh our practices, our minds, our ideas, our thoughts. It is indeed an exciting time to be in Lynchburg City Schools. So I'm going to leave you with a refreshing quote from another great philosopher, Kid President. And he says, sure, there's bad stuff in the world, but there's also you. Today, you can be bold, you can be kind, you can be awesome. But most important, as we reset and refresh, be somebody who makes everybody feel like somebody. As Ms. Reeves said, we got this. It's going to be a great year in Lynchburg City Schools, and I am so pleased to lead alongside all of you wonderful people. Let's make it a great year as we reset and refresh. Thank you.
Awesome. I believe it's now time to hear from our Deputy Superintendent, Dr. Reed Wodica.
Well, good morning, LCS, and thank you, Ethel, for your kind introduction, and thank you, Dr. Edwards, for leading this school division and encouraging us to focus every day on what's best for children and families throughout their community. So for those of you who I have not met, my name is Reed Wodica, and I have the honor of serving as the very new Deputy Superintendent of Operations and Strategic Planning for the Lynchburg City Schools. Now that I'm about 5 weeks in, I have really appreciated the opportunity to meet new colleagues and in many cases, reunite with a lot of old friends. As a product of LCS, honestly, I can think of no greater honor than to return home to join Dr. Edwards and Mrs. Pugh and everyone in the school division as we work together towards our theme this year of reset and refresh as a team of professionals in this wonderful school division. So some of you might be wondering, what exactly does a Deputy Superintendent of Operations and Strategic Planning actually do? And I'll be honest with you, I'm about 5 weeks in, and I'm still learning about what all that means. But I think the best way to put it right now is that I have the opportunity to work with every day the professionals in our organization that provide those functions for the school division that I would say help set the stage for success of our instructional programming and work that we do for our students every single day. The work that's done by professionals in facilities and grounds maintenance and student transportation and school nutrition and community engagement and equity and school safety, and of course, human resources and finance. These are all critical functions to the success of our students in our community. And I am proud to work with each of you. And as Dr. Edwards said, I'm grateful for each and every person in those divisions, as well as the entire school division. So our vision and operations world of the school division is one to build a strong and sustainable professional environment, creating a supportive structure that wraps around our instructional program to grow and enrich quality educational experiences for our faculty and staff and students alike. The wonderful thing about working in an educational environment, but I would say in particular the Lynchburg City Schools, is that we are in fact a learning organization. That's what we do. Of course, we're dedicated to student learning and achievements, but I'd also challenge us to think about how we consider how we grow as professionals. And we're continually learning as we grow in our professions and in the service we provide to our community. I know over the last 5 weeks, I have personally learned more from my colleagues than I could have ever imagined. And I suspect that will continue throughout my first year and certainly beyond that as well. But a really important thing about learning organizations is that those organizations work to learn about how they can do their work better, how they can reset and refresh, how they can be more effective. and be more focused on meeting their mission. So it's in that spirit, it's in that idea that we work together to really celebrate where we have strengths, and we have so many of them. But we also have to admit and be honest about where we have some opportunities for growth, or I'll say some opportunities for future greatness. So as we seek to reset and refresh in this school division, I want to talk a little bit about some of the things that we in the operational departments are planning for the coming year, and how we can make this wonderful organization an even better place so that we can be focused every single day on building successful students who, of course, will be our next generation of local and community members. So to that end, during the first meeting of the directors that I work with, we agreed on a shared vision for where we go. Our goal over the next year is to build systems that are so seamless and so supportive of our core mission that our educators in our forward-facing roles don't ever have to worry about administrative or bureaucratic issues, whether their physical environment is safe or comfortable, and whether or not they'll have the resources they need for student learning. Now, that's an ideal that might be tough to totally achieve, and certainly will take some time, but I will say we have some wonderful opportunities for future greatness. And because we are a learning organization, we are going to professionally and honestly and enthusiastically confront challenges where we do have them, while really working to build on areas of strength where we have them, and we have a whole lot of them. So here's a few things that we're going to dive into in the coming year with our growth mindset that Dr. Edwards talked about, and certainly a focus on learning. The first one, and this may not be the most exciting thing to a lot of folks, but I think it's really important and it's exciting to us, those of us who work in this field, and that is thinking about some of our business processes. And I know that's sort of mundane to some folks, but I think it's really going to be meaningful in the long run. But our hope is we can think through our business processes to make them as seamless as they possibly can be, so that people are focused on, again, working with our students. So here's an example. So I've had the good fortune over the last couple of weeks to work really closely with the talented and hardworking and dedicated HR staff that have been working to bring new faculty and staff members into our school division. I have to say it's been a lot of fun. I've been able to offer more jobs to people, I think, in the last 5 weeks than I probably did in the first 15 or so years of my career. And really, that's a fun thing to do. And I can tell you that there has been a yeoman's effort as we welcome as many people into our organization as humanly possible as we start the year. Many of you who have been a part of that process, whether you've been a recruit or you've been a principal working through that, you've gotten emails and phone calls and text messages, heck, I don't know, maybe even smoke signals late into the evening from our dedicated folks. And while we are so thankful that they've been going the extra mile, this probably isn't a sustainable model for us to work through. So during this time, we've identified a number of pretty clear process design issues that once they're resolved, we'll streamline our recruitment process so that principals and candidates have a clear path forward, so we can bring the best people we possibly can into the Lynchburg City Schools. So this fall, as an example of what we're going to be doing, we'll reach out to you and hear about your experiences and learn from you as we think through some of the process design opportunities that we have. That's just one of our examples of business process improvements that we can make, and we're going to continue working on all of those things as we continue forward. So the next thing is how we communicate with you in our community. We've been challenged to reimagine our communications efforts, and over the next weeks and months, we will be crafting a strategy to develop a structured and consistent and inclusive communications approach that will provide very timely and relevant information on all forms of social media. We'll be working to rethink and improve how we do everything from articulating and clearly explaining school board decisions, highlighting the great work that is accomplished by staff and students, and alerting you when there's time-sensitive or really emergency things that we need you to know about and understand very quickly. Now, the third thing I want to talk about is our work in school safety and security. We've all watched as tragedies have unfolded in the public schools throughout the nation. Schools that should be safe places. They should be supportive places. They should be reverent places. The Lynchburg City Schools is renewing and refreshing our commitment to school safety and security. And over the summer, we've had the opportunity to work with the police department to evaluate our buildings and develop even better interventions for school security. Some of them may be very apparent, and some of them, frankly, may not be. But we do need to ask for your help. And I think many of you probably have heard Dr. Edwards say this, but we need to have a shared responsibility that everyone is and remains vigilant to maintain the security and the integrity of every building. Now, this means a couple of things, right? So we don't hold the door for someone who hasn't been allowed in the building, even if we know that person, right? And as Dr. Edwards said, we have to tell them, listen, we're not being rude, we're just being safe. We also have to be thinking about using really good sense as we go forward, even if it's not totally convenient. We really can't prop doors open, even if you just got to run to the car really quickly. And when we see something that's concerning, that could be from a student or even from another staff member, we have to report it so we can be sure that everyone stays safe. So these security issues are critical, but I also want to point out that we have, in our effort to continually learn and improve safety, LCS has hired Mr. Cecil Jackson, who you saw, as Ethel pointed out just a few minutes ago, who is entirely dedicated and responsible for school safety and security and brings with him incredible experience in campus safety and security. And primarily that's at the higher education arena. So he'll bring those experiences here, and I know will make a hugely positive impact on the work that we do, and really actually already has. Now, finally, I want to talk a little bit about long-term facilities and campus planning. Many of you are aware that over the last couple of years, LCS has been investing in planning and evaluation efforts to understand the physical condition of our buildings and campuses. And as many of you know who spend every day there, many of our buildings are, we'll say, aging, and some are in better condition than others. Now, our overall plan at this point is to develop and publish a master plan for the future of our facilities that we can use to serve as a guiding document for our capital investments in the next couple of years. And our next step is to evaluate, in doing that, is to evaluate and cast a vision for how our present educational programming can be updated, how student assignment procedures can be reimagined and refined, and how non-traditional programs can be housed at our present and future facilities. All of that information, once complete, will then be fused together with our existing facility assessment condition report and used to develop and publish a master plan for our facilities. That will help us grow and guide and learn about what our future should look like and how our physical locations will contribute to the long-term success of our students. Now, this will help us not only understand where our schools should be, but how they should be designed and how over time Lynchburg City Schools can be the leader in the way that public school facilities are designed and integrated into the educational environment, as well as the larger community. Now, I'd like to just finish up and talk about a couple of things about a vision for operating departments, about how we move forward. And I'd like to talk about an idea beyond sort of that idea of providing that sort of stable and supportive environment, which is critically important and where we need to grow. But I also want to talk about a vision for the future of our operating departments, which is one that we're not only just setting the stage for success for students and faculty, but one in which we are intentionally contributing to student learning and well-being in really critical and substantive ways. And in the future, I look forward to when our buildings and campuses are intentionally designed and master planned as learning laboratories for our students to engage and learn with a focus on environmental and social and economic sustainability for our entire community. And so as we move forward in the next couple of years, the operating departments in LCS will be committed to helping enhance and sustain our educational environment, all while being substantive contributors to curriculum and learning opportunities. And I know this transition will take some time, but I do believe in it. I believe that it will be critical in setting LCS apart and will be clear in how it is a part of how we were cementing our place as the premier school division in the Commonwealth of Virginia. As I finish up, I'll just say that it is clear to me and it has always been clear to me, that LCS is full of dedicated professionals who care deeply about children and families. And again, I'm so thankful to be a part of the team here. And many of the ideas you've heard about today will take some time to fully implement, but we are committed. I believe in the school division. Your leadership believes in you and your school division and everyone who works here. And I hope that everyone at LCS will join me in building an exciting new year as we reset and refresh our school division for the coming year. Thank you so much for your time and attention, and I sincerely look forward to working with each of you.
Deputy Superintendent Pugh. Unmute, Deputy Superintendent.
And you would think after 2 years of Zoom that I would know that. Let me start again. Good morning and welcome to a new school year. I am Amy Pugh, Deputy Superintendent of Instruction and Programs. And as I start year 3 in this role, I too, like Dr. Wodeka, am honored to be part of the LCS family. I am looking forward to working alongside each of you to reset and refresh our minds and attitudes and make this the best year yet. I want to go back and introduce a new staff member. Courtney Lang-Lois is our division-wide nurse coordinator, and we are thrilled to have her as part of our supervision staff in the student services department. So welcome, Courtney. As we look at the word refresh, it's defined as giving new strength and energy to something. And so this morning, I want to take just a few minutes to reflect and then look forward on some ways that the instructional departments are committed to giving new energy and strength to our mission, every child by name and by need, to graduation and beyond. So over 1,200 students from our youngest to our seniors participated in our summer programs this year. And I want to say thank you to all of the staff that made this possible. Our summer school administrators, who for many of them, this was the first time in that role, to our teachers and our instructional assistants who worked daily to provide meaningful instruction and enrichment activities for our students, to our transportation and school nutrition staff, who without you, we could not have had summer school, to our ITRs, ITRTs and our IT staff, to our maintenance and facilities staff, and our CNI staff as well. The opportunities that you all provided allowed our students to make gains that will better prepare them for the year ahead, whether that's in the classroom or the next steps after graduation. As we look to the 22-23 school year, I want to highlight some areas of focus for curriculum and instruction, information technology, student services, and special education. The CNI staff have been busy this summer. They supported our summer programming, and they've also been preparing to support you, our staff, and our students as we begin this school year. They will continue a strong focus on literacy and math. At the elementary level, we'll continue with foundations and just words. We'll have some additions of decodable readers at the elementary school that will support that focus on literacy. This year, there's a renewed focus on the writing process, helping students to understand pre-writing, rough drafts, editing, and then moving to their final projects. With a focus on math literacy, we're also looking at the elementary level building fact fluency, helping students understand and have deeper conceptual fluency with their math facts. Additionally, at the elementary level, going to be introducing Braining Camp. And you'll hear more about this in the coming week as you provide some resources for some professional development. But Braining Camp is online math manipulatives for students in kindergarten through 8th grade. And this will help us as we're working to build that fact fluency with our students. At the secondary level, there's a focus on the new science textbooks. And again, that more information will be coming this week from the CNI staff on implementation of science curriculum. One of the things that we are excited about is a refreshed assessment calendar. So the CNI team took a look at the calendar last year and took into account the additional winter SOL growth measure and that's in place this year and has reduced the number of IXL student snapshot assessments. Last year, if you'll recall, there were 4 times throughout the year that students participated in the snapshot assessments. And this year, those will only be 2. So there will be a baseline at the beginning of the year, then 2 snapshot assessments, and then the final assessment at the end of the year. So we're looking forward to resetting some expectations in IXL for ELA and math in our progress monitoring that will allow teachers and students some additional time to focus on instruction, especially at the secondary level. The CNI team also pushed the reset button on the assessment platform. They worked collaboratively with the IT department and looked at some opportunities for us to move forward. So we're leaving the Performance Matters system behind as Carl Lewis said, it's time for us to leave some things behind and move on. And we're implementing Edge Elastic. So you'll be learning a little bit more about that during this coming week from your school staff and your ITRTs as well. And talking about ITRTs, I hope many of you had the chance to attend Techstravaganza organized by our fantastic IT department last week. This year's theme for the conference was Refresh, Reboot, Reconnect, and it really set the tone for the coming year. Scott McLeod, who was the opening speaker, focused on looking at instruction through a lens of equity, allowing more opportunities for student voice and choice in their learning. So your ITRTs and your technology team will be supporting us this year as we move forward with that exciting opportunity. Director John Collins and his team are also knee-deep in the implementation of Project Wish. It is a multi-phase implementation across the city of Lynchburg that will bring wireless networking to our students in their homes. So John and his team have been working with some outside vendors with the city of Lynchburg to put some equipment on top of our school buildings and other locations, which will allow all of our students, as we put this into place over the next year or two, to have access to wireless, to the LCS wireless network from home. And if you hear the IT team say yes, YES, it may be referring to the yearly event series. This year, they're going to offer 9 live monthly training events, which will be focused on Infinite Campus, and staff will also have access to those recorded sessions as well. In our special education department, they will continue to support our students and our families with professional development for teachers that's focused on co-teaching and specially designed instruction, with, again, a strong focus on reading and literacy. In our student services department, Dr. Brown and his team are committed to supporting the whole child. As Dr. Edwards talked, it's important for us to support the whole child with a renewed focus on mental health supports, both in and out of the classroom. They're already busy making sure that staff have the tools and the resources needed to work with our students. Our BCBA, Rich Ferguson, worked last week with our new teachers to give them strategies and practices to promote social emotional learning in the classroom. Your student services supervisors, some of our school social workers, and other division staff are committed to a new program, Youth Mental Health First Aid. This is an evidence-based curriculum that will allow all LCS staff, full-time, part-time, bus driver, teacher, instructional assistant, building principal, to understand and respond to mental health and substance use challenges. This is really important for us to build mental health literacy skills and develop a common language, which will allow us intentional and integrated approaches with our current practices, including PBIS, VTSS, and restorative justice. Our goal over the next 2 or 3 years is to have all of our staff trained in youth mental health first aid. And as I introduced earlier, Courtney Lang-Lois, our division-wide nursing coordinator, she and her team will continue to monitor the health of our staff and students. They'll continue to partner with the Virginia Department of Health to stay updated on health concerns. As Dr. Edwards previously mentioned, LCS is continuing the VISTA program to offer free weekly COVID testing at each school and work location for students and staff that have registered for the program. This also includes access to take-home rapid test kits. So if you have not already signed up for that, and even if you have, we're going to encourage all staff and students to again participate this year. Dr. Edwards talked about new attitudes, helping us reach new altitudes. So as I close, by resetting and refreshing our minds and practices, I hope we as a division can move from a yes, but attitude to a why not and how can we mindset. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Deputy Superintendent Pugh and Deputy Superintendent Wotica. You between the two of you, you've given us a lot to think about as we look forward to resetting and refreshing this year. The things that you are working on are exciting, inspiring, maybe even a little bit scary, because some of those things might be new, but kids deserve it, right? Kids deserve it. And as we look to this school year, let's be mindful about probably the most important thing we know about education. The number one factor in education is relationships, relationships, relationships. Teachers know this. They have relationships with their students and families. Building leaders have relationships with their teachers and staff and families. Division leaders have relationships with buildings and community, teachers, staff, students, and families. Our school board develops relationships with our leaders, our teachers, our staff, our students, our community, our family. And hopefully today, just by listening to the speakers, between our vice mayor representing our community, our school board chair, our LEA president, who is part of Team LCS right alongside with us, our deputy soups, myself, we are all vested in these key relationships that matter for children. And with these relationships, as we look at our practices, whether they're the business practices that Dr. Wotica talked about, the facilities study that we're still in, alternative ed, which is the big one for us in terms of studying behaviors and looking at ways to help children who need a little something different. We have to remain open-minded as we move forward. But we also have to have great relationships with our kids and families and great relationships with each other. It is the best time, the most important time for all of us, and you've heard me say this, we've got to check our titles at the door, and that's whether you are the vice mayor, the superintendent, head custodian, attendance coordinator, bus assistant. Let's all check our titles at the door, and let's all meet in the same room on the same level to do the good work that we need to do for our students here in Lynchburg City Schools. Kids deserve it. They deserve the best of us. Self-care is important. Take care of yourself so that you bring your best self to work every day. They deserve the best of our buildings. So our facility study, as Dr. Wotica said, let's have an exciting, inspiring, engaging learning environment, the place where kids want to run in because they love their environment. They deserve an engaging curriculum that invites them to be part of the learning. Student voice and choice is going to be so important. We don't want our kids to just be vessels that we pour information into. Our kids are creative, innovative, collaborative. Our kids think outside the box. They want to produce original content. They want to use their talent and skills to build things, to do things that matter. So our curriculum has to provide opportunities for those things to happen. And to do that, we've got to have good relationships with each other. We've got to check our titles at the door and really dig deep. Deeper learning is what Scott McLeod talked about when he was at the ITRT conference. What matters most for children? Are we doing that? And lastly, as I close with our mission statement, which we actually do need to edit, every child by name, by need to graduation, right? Graduation is not good enough, not for my babies here in Lynchburg City Schools. There's got to be more than just a high school diploma. There has to be a thriving, sustainable life on the other side of that, whether that's going into military, post-secondary education, entrepreneurial career, But the best thing that I heard this week came from one of my principals, Casey Jefferson. And she said, I want more for my kids than them living a just above broke lifestyle. We don't want anybody living just above broke. We don't want that for our staff. We don't want that for our families. We don't want that for our children. And as long as we can think about what is it going to take so that no child leaves Lynchburg City Schools with a trajectory that has them on the path to live just above broke. When you think about it that way, you understand why we need to reset and refresh for the benefit of our children. And no child ever said, please, please give me an education that will lead me to a just above broke lifestyle. That's not what they want from Lynchburg City Schools. Kids deserve our best. Staff, you deserve the best from us as leaders. And I hope by listening to Dr. Wotica, by listening to Deputy Superintendent Pugh, Dr. Coleman, our Vice Mayor, your LEA President, Ethel Reeves, and myself, I hope staff, you're feeling like we're all on the same team and we're all working together this year as we reset and refresh. Let's make it a great year, LCS. Take care and enjoy the rest of this beautiful, beautiful day. Thank you, thank you, thank you.